Welcome to The Week on WURD, a podcast featuring the roundup of the most interesting, informative, and entertaining interviews from WURD Radio. You can listen to WURD Radio anytime, anywhere on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app. Give us a play and download it today. In this episode, Dr. Timnit Gebru, an Ethiopian-born computer scientist and leading voice in the field of artificial intelligence ethics, joined WURD Radio's special program, Artificial Intelligence, Black Realities, to talk about Black workers in tech and to discuss who's designing and developing AI and who should be. And Sharif El-Mekki is the founder and CEO of the Center for Black Educator Development. El-Mekki joined Reality Check with Tanya Pendleton to talk about how his organization in Philadelphia is trying to get more Black teachers in the classroom. But first, Councilwoman Quetcy Lozada spoke with Wake Up With WURD host Solomon Jones to expand on her impassioned speech advocating for a bill affecting her Kensington district.
Joining us now is Councilmember Quetcy Lozada. She represents the 7th District, which represents Kensington in the city of Philadelphia. Councilmember Lozada, good morning.
Good morning, Solomon. Thank you so much for having me on today on this beautiful morning.
It is a beautiful morning, and we certainly appreciate you joining us. You have been working on trying to bring some order to what's happening in Kensington. You introduced a bill that would regulate some of the agencies and individuals who are coming down to the neighborhood and trying to address some of the issues that people are going through. You gave a speech about it in City Council. We want to play some of that so people can hear what you said at that time. Let's take a listen.
We can't talk about education if we're not remembering the kids in communities like mine that are impacted by what they see going and coming from school every day. The people who are dying on the streets of Kensington are someone's children. You cannot sit here and tell me that you are okay with people's children having their faces stuck to the cement. You can't tell me that you're okay with people's children living with wounds where they're losing their limbs and be okay with that. You can't tell me that you're okay with the conditions of Kensington Avenue. My kids deserve joy. They deserve compassion too. They deserve opportunity. They deserve opportunity. And we are not giving them opportunity if we continue to fold our hands and not do anything.
Yeah. And so that's what you said at the time. What prompted you to speak so passionately about that issue?
I think it was the fact that, there were folks who were there opposing the bill who really didn't understand that this is not anything to oppose. We are simply regulating how and where they provide these much needed services. And folks take advantage of misinformation and the lack of providing folks with the education around what is happening there. And that to me is not okay, right? Because they do all of that at the expense of my community. And my community has been compassionate, has been empathetic, and has really tried to continue to live, work, and raise their families there in the midst of everything that is going on. And I think that they deserve a break already.
Mm-hmm. So
it's just frustrating.
Mm-hmm. So Kensington, of course, is a place that has dealt with an open air drug market for not years, but decades in that area. And it's something that the Parker administration and you and others are trying to clean up. And so you introduced a bill that would regulate how people provide services there, about people who volunteer to bring in services to try to help those who are living with addiction. What specifically does your bill say?
Basically, the bill in a nutshell says that medical mobile providers must provide services at a designated area. It is a lot that is located on B and Lehigh. We've had conversation with community residents from that immediate area, with some of the stakeholders in that immediate area, to ensure that They were in support of that selection. That space will have a privacy fence where people will be able to come in and receive the much needed services, wound care, medical services, HIV testing, hepatitis testing. There'll be a food provider there, clothing provider there, showers, bathrooms, MAT. Everything will be in that space and not in front of people's doors. Basically, the bill just says that, right? That you can no longer pull up onto someone's residential block in front of someone's home, set up shop, and draw hundreds of people onto a residential block and provide these services. There has to be some level of respect for the property owner. There has to be respect for the business owner. There has to be respect for the children that live in those spaces, for the seniors that live in those spaces. And this is what was happening, right? People were just setting up shop on people's residential blocks, taking up 6, 7, 8 parking spaces, having people do tests in between cars. You have non-medical professionals or non-medical providers trying to clean up people's wounds incorrectly, which just made wounds worse, right? Because they're not covering them appropriately. People's gauzes were falling on people's sidewalks, on people's doorsteps. People are waiting a long period of time on the block, so they're defecating and urinating on the block. You have food providers that show up on people's block because they're following the medical provider. So now people are distributing food and leaving food all over the place, attracting rodents. It's just complete havoc and a lack of respect for those who are just trying to live there. And the bill, it doesn't prevent people from providing services. It just brings structure and order to the process.
Well, one of the things you said, and I've been in Kensington a lot and have seen people who, and they want to help. They want to help those who are living in addiction. But to your point, you still have people who actually live there and actually pay taxes and own these properties or are renting or whatever. They live there. And so one of the things you said was that you have people who are trying to clean wounds and provide wound care who are not medical professionals.
Right. And they've made some of these wounds worse, right? These individuals are losing their limbs on our sidewalks. People's flesh is on people's sidewalks. It's just, we have to remember that what children see is what they will carry with them for the rest of their life, right? And if we don't want our children to become a part of all of these systems that we say we want to draw them away from, then we have to do something now. Our children will become a part of a mental health system, a part of the opioid addiction system, a part of our prison population, a part of our dropout systems. There's so many systems that we talk so much about wanting to prevent children from going into, yet we are doing everything in the opposite if we don't address what is happening in that immediate community. And they deserve opportunities, right? They deserve to be respected. They deserve living in healthy spaces where quality of life is just as important for them as it is in other communities.
Yeah. And so what was the pushback that you were getting to this bill, which would, regulate people not being on people's sidewalks, trying to provide medical care that they may or may not be qualified to provide?
They are saying that I am, first of all, there's this misinformation that I am banning mobile services. I am not banning anything. We're not stopping any services, right? And so that was the first pushback. You're banning services. People are going to die because you're not allowing these services to come into the community. You're pushing services further away, so people are not going to be able to get to those services. I'm not pushing services anywhere. Their services are still within the footprint of where they tend to hang out at anyway, right? You're preventing people from providing food and clothing to these individuals. We're not doing that either. For non-medical providers or for non-medical services or programs or religious groups that want to come into the footprint to do all of these things because their faith calls on them to do it, that is all permissible. You need to have a permit. Your permit will require you to give on your application a time, a date, and a location of where you're going to be. And you're going to be able to do so. But you will also be responsible for cleaning up after yourself, right? Mm-hmm. No longer are you going to be able to come and say, I'm going to distribute food, and whatever I have left over, I'm going to now leave it on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. Because it is not, we're now going to have oversight. Mm-hmm. You will have the streets and sanitation department in the area, making sure that spaces are cleaned up after they're being used. You will have license and inspection. You will have the health department. You will have the police department. And if you don't have a permit, you will be asked to leave. Mm-hmm. And if you violate this process, then you will not be welcome back into our system, right? Back into our community. We will ban you from being in the area. So you can provide services. You just have to follow the process that you would follow in anybody else's neighborhood. It's just that simple.
Okay. All right. And so, this bill is going to be up for a final vote tomorrow, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. And so,
with God's grace and mercy, we will be up for final vote, and we will pass.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that my colleagues heard my frustration and the message. I've asked my colleagues and have invited each one of them consistently to have conversation with me to be able to respond to what their concerns are. We've received many, many calls from community residents from near and far of the 7th Councilmatic District in support of and offering their prayers and their support to the residents of the community as well as to myself. And so I'm grateful for all of those words of encouragement and all of the support that I've received.
So I've been to Kensington many times and have seen some of the stuff that you're talking about. I don't think people can really visualize it unless they actually see some of what is going on. People, human waste on the ground, people lying on the ground, people overdosing, all of these things. And I guess my question is, given that you have all of these agencies and individuals and groups who are trying to help those who are in addiction, who's trying to help the people who live there?
And that is a great question, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm a lone soldier in this process, right? But I think that there are a lot of really great people trying to help the people that live there, but receive a lot of pushback because the voices of those who don't live there and who, in all honesty, are just making money off of the people who are suffering, their voices drown us out sometimes, right? And so I think that's why it's really necessary to sometimes elevate your voice and be present in spaces in order for us to continue to push for the quality of life that people really, really need. You do really have some people there that are trying to help residents. Our schools, our principals in that footprint, our teachers in that footprint are heroes, right? They don't have to go to schools in communities like mine who are in all honesty dangerous. I represent 3 of the 5 most dangerous neighborhoods in the city of Philadelphia, right? And as a result of some of the work that we're doing, we're starting to see crime coming down. We're starting to see, less trash in the community. We're starting to see an enforcement response from the police department and more police presence, which is what people from that community called for. And so I think there are a lot of people that really are trying to help improve the quality of life for the Kensington residents. And sometimes we miss that as a result of all of the noise that is happening. We also have a mayor and an administration who have, from day one, prioritized the Kensington Harrogate community. And she has lived up to that commitment. And so, we can't, she's not going to She's not going to always get things right. Neither am I. But we're really, really trying for the first time to prioritize improving that community in every possible way that we can. And so I'm grateful for them and their work as well, right? The administration, the mayor, the police department, the stakeholders, the businesses, Solomon, who could have packed up a long time ago and said, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to a different neighborhood where I can really make some money. But they recognize that that what they have to offer the residents is important and that the residents should not be left alone. And so they've really stuck it out and have also been really supportive.
We're speaking with Councilmember Quetcy Lozada. She represents the 7th Councilmanic District, which represents Kensington, an area that has faced great challenges because of an open-air drug market that has existed there for decades. What progress do you believe has been made there, and what do you envision as success?
You know, I've seen, having been born and raised there, I've seen how the community has gone up and down. And I think that when we were at our worst was maybe in the last 8 years. And I've seen huge progress in the amount of trash, the number of unsheltered, right? That number goes up and down, but we are at our lowest point of unsheltered individuals in that footprint. We're down closer to the 500 number. I've seen city department response, right? There was a time where folks in government used to say we can't arrest our way out of it, and it turned into we will do nothing about it. And so, you know, it got to very critical spaces, but we've seen a response in government presence, in police presence, in program presence, right? There was also a time where no one was asking some of these providers, you know, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What are your numbers? What is the impact? That is all happening now. And I believe that as a result of that, we have seen the numbers in crime go down. We have seen the numbers of HIV and hepatitis C go down. We have seen businesses come into compliance, right? We have seen, a more emphasis on ensuring that our children are safe going and coming from school, right? I think that there are things to be very proud of in the last year and a half that could not have been done unless there was a government that accepted accountability for what was happening, and in turn holding others accountable and having the community become partners, right? We're working with the community's voices leading the process. And I think that has made a huge difference, right? We also, I can't deny that I have a legislative body of colleagues, the majority, who have been consistently supportive. And when I'm not in spaces where the residents of Harrogate and Kensington need to be defended, I have colleagues who have really stepped up to the plate to say, hey, this is what is really happening there, because I have toured Kensington as well, right? I have many colleagues who have toured the Kensington Harrogate community with me, and they have seen firsthand, and they've been able to also fight and defend in spaces where I am not in or where community residents are not in. And I think that has made a difference. So we are in a completely different place. And while we have a lot of work to still do, I think that we are seeing the changes in a really positive way.
All right. As Councilmember Quetcy Lozada, she represents the 7th District in Kensington. Her bill looking to regulate some of these agencies that are working in that district.
You're listening to The Week on Word. Stay connected on the go with the new and improved WURD Radio app. Search WURD Radio in your app store. Stream every show with increased clarity. Easily access WURD TV, EcoWord, and Livelihood. Remember, Black Media Matters. Get the new and improved WURD Radio app today. Available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. This is The Week on WURD, a podcast highlighting the top conversations on WURD Radio. Make sure you look for and follow WURD Radio on social media. Up next, Dr. Timnit Gebru joined Dr. James Peterson on WURD's special program, Artificial Intelligence, Black Realities.
Good evening, Dr. Gebru. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us for this program today.
Thank you for having me.
But Dr. Timnit, I'm gonna ask you to tell a story that you probably have told already many times. But for this audience, which is live here and also on radio, can you help us understand what you saw that alerted you to the kind of biases that were kind of baked into the cake of artificial intelligence?
Okay. Thank you for having me, first of all. And I'm really sad that I couldn't make it in person, but I am in transit these days. And so I saw many things. So let me start with one of the first things I saw in 2016. And this is before I joined Google. And I was at one of the most prestigious academic conferences in a field called machine learning. And that's a subset of AI. And in that conference, it's supposed to be an international conference. I saw so many people, just swaths and swaths of people. And can you guess how many Black people I counted? So there was about 5,500 attendees there. And guess how many Black people?
1, 2,
Five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Out of 5,500 people. And at the same time, this field was getting so much hype. Everybody was talking about how the robots were going to take over and the jobs and everything. And at the same time, there was this ProPublica article about this software, this company purporting to determine to have an automated system that determines someone's likelihood of committing a crime again. So that's called crime recidivism, right? And so surprise, surprise, obviously, they were more likely to say that Black people were going to be committing crimes again. But judges were using all of these systems as input for sentencing, for deciding on bail, etc. So these two combinations were such a shock to me, because on the one hand, you have the hype of AI. On the other hand, you have the points of view of the people I was working with about Black people. And then on the other hand, you have the kinds of systems, automated systems that were being built, which were obviously biased against Black people. So to me, that was kind of the first time that I started getting really worried about this bias. Fast forward to Google, I joined, and again, there was basically no Black people working in AI. And it was very difficult. There's so many qualified ones, let me just say. But it was very difficult to get them in first. And once you got them in, it was such a hostile place. And I'm sure it continues to be for anybody of color, really, and especially Black people, and especially Black women with all of the different issues. But at the same time, once again, in 2020, right when the George Floyd protests were happening, they were very excited by what are called large language models. So now, how many people there have heard of large language models?
I've heard of it, but I don't know if I can define what they are for you.
Okay, so I'll quickly talk about what large language models are. And they're basically at the underlying technology of a lot of what people call AI right now. And so that would be like ChatGPT or Gemini or these kinds of chatbots, right? That that you kind of interact with. And so what these models do is they're trained on large amounts of mostly text in the beginning, at least back then, on the internet. So they try to basically ingest all the text in the internet. And what they are trained to do is predict the most likely sequences of words, right? So sometimes predicting the most likely sequences of words looks extremely impressive. So you think that you're getting some really deep facts and poetry and whatever it is from these systems. But really what they are is very fancy autocomplete is how I would describe them. So back at the end, and so what happens is now guess what kind of text is on the internet. Imagine, how does the internet feel about Black people, I guess, let's say, great or not great.
There's no small amount of racism on the internet.
Exactly. So now if you're trying to train a model, you ingest all of this text on the internet and you train this model to predict the most likely sequences of words. I mean, obviously the output of this model is going to be pretty racist, pretty sexist, pretty, discriminatory in many ways. So at the helm of those protests, the Black Lives Matter protests, at the same time, simultaneously, I was seeing this excitement about this kind of model. And people at Google, the leaders, were not happy that OpenAI had the largest model. The largest mean computationally required more energy, a lot more data, etc. And so I was very confused. Like, I was asking them, why do you care about size here? What about the quality of the outputs? What about the issues that we know of, that the outputs are discriminatory, etc.? And of course, long story short, I was fired. So that's that's how that ended.
I mean, they could not tolerate you even raising the issue. I mean, I know they blocked the publication of a paper that you had done some research on this to try to present it in a way where the data could speak for itself. So they censored you first, but they had essentially zero tolerance for you even raising this issue.
I mean, so the paper, yes, I wrote a peer-reviewed academic paper. This is not like an op-ed on some newspaper or something like that. This is a paper that was peer-reviewed, academic, lots of citations, that was reviewed by my peers, and it's went through what we call double-blind review, which means they're not supposed to. Your peers don't know who wrote the paper, and so it goes through all of this process. The paper was accepted for publication, but before that even happened, when it was under review, they said that I should either retract the paper or retract my name and the name of the Google authors from the paper. And I didn't even say no. I said that in order for me to do that, I need to know what kind of research I'm allowed to do here at Google, like what kind of research my team is allowed to do, because we're not in the marketing department. So if I put my name out there and I say I'm a scientist, people have to believe that, I'm not selectively doing the science, right? I'm not in marketing. I'm not in PR. I'm saying that I'm a scientist, and that's the name they're using. So they didn't want to have that conversation. They actually said that they told my direct reports that I had resigned when I hadn't. And they also didn't tell my manager, the person I report to, he didn't know that I was fired. And they did this in the pandemic when I was on vacation. But that was the last straw. I mean, they've been looking for, I was a troublemaker as far as they were concerned, because I was complaining. I was talking about the lack of Black people. Actually, right before that happened, I asked for the Black researchers to take over their research summit so that we could talk about the issues that we faced and kind of give them 5 specific recommendations. And so we surveyed so many, very few, of course, that wasn't that many of us. And we surveyed ourselves and we asked them, we kind of asked everybody what they needed to get their work done and like what was wrong. We synthesized all of that information, gave them 5 recommendations, none of which they followed, obviously. And then, this is the kind of stuff I was doing at Google. So by the time the paper came, it was kind of like a way to get me out. That wasn't the only issue they had with me.
I just want to be clear, Doc. You were one of the leaders of the ethical AI research team at Google, and you researched and wrote a paper about the racial ethics of AI, and they censored it and ultimately fired you from the company.
Yes, and exactly. And also, I was just doing my job, basically, that I was hired to do. But I also want to say that there was absolutely no doubt as to who I was prior to them asking me to join Google. Right before I joined Google, I had created an organization called Black in AI, and it was very clear what the mission of that organization was: to increase the representation, wealth, and health and well-being of Black people in the field of AI and the visibility. And then secondly, I had with my collaborator, Dr. Joy Bulamini, written a paper that showed for the first time the level to which face recognition systems misidentified darker skinned people. The darker and darker you are, and especially women, the higher and higher the error rates. Whereas, of course, surprise, surprise, for lighter skinned men, the error rates were nearly 0. And we warned that this was going to lead to false arrests. And of course, fast forward to 2023, the first person who was wrongfully arrested based on the use of face recognition, Robert Williams, is a Black man from Detroit.
Yeah, Dr. Gebru, I want to follow up with this because you talked earlier on about the ways in which what you were seeing in terms of how it was being used around crime recidivism was raising some of the early flags in terms of your research and looking at the biases around AI. And I think one of the things that scares normal, average, everyday people the most about AI are like things like surveillance, the use of facial recognition by law enforcement. I mean, we just got this decision coming out of Tennessee today that the law enforcement officers who fatally beat Tyree Nichols were acquitted today. And so for this community, I'm sorry, folks, at state levels, yes, they were acquitted of all state charges, yes. And so for this community, the folks listening to this and watching you right now, this is one of the premium concerns about artificial intelligence, the ways in which it's going to be used as surveillance and why and how it's biased. Can you help us understand, one, why is facial recognition biased? Why is it not working the way that it should be? Why can't it be programmed to be equitable and fair?
So I want to give you two reasons. The first one is I just want to start by answering that even if we had perfect face recognition, that is, even if there were no errors, it would still be used to over-police Black people. It would still be used to infringe on our human rights. And so, for example, in 2016, during the protests in DC or around DC, police used face recognition systems to identify protesters with outstanding warrants so that they could then harass them. So this is the use of accurate face recognition to over-police people. And so I just want to start by saying that. So for me, I have a much more expansive view of what the harms can be. Secondly, why is face recognition more inaccurate for our community? Well, if you look at how these systems are trained, again, they're trained once again with data from scraping on the internet, data scraped on the internet, celebrities, etc. So when we examined the data that was used to train lots of face recognition systems, they were overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly male, what Joy calls pale male data sets. I like her term. So
I'm going to steal that, pale male data sets.
Exactly. And obviously pale male data sets lead to systems that are better at, recognizing pale male people and not everybody else.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Dr. Gebru, I do want to talk about some of the other work that you do. First, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing at the Distributed AI Research Institute? Maybe start with a novice like me. What is distributed AI?
Well, the distributed to me is the opposite of centralized. So I don't want one group of people to have power and to control everybody else. I want to kind of have many different people around the world have the ability to shape the future of technology, which is currently not the state that we are in. So that's the distributed part of it. People are distributed around the world. And so the idea of DARE is to do two things. First is kind of serve as an early warning system when we see issues about AI. So alert everybody else before it kind of happens. But secondly, we don't want to just be stuck like pointing out dumpster fires. We want to put forward our vision for an affirmative vision of how we think tech should be used. So we want tech to be used to support our communities rather than surveil them, right? And so we want it to be based on our community's needs. So that's those are the two things, the two missions of DARE.
No, I love that. Are there follow-ups for both of those? Are there other issues around artificial intelligence that we should be alerted to right now as it's unfolding?
Yes, I mean the so-called DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, and how it's trying to. My best friend Elon Musk, we're so. I do want to say one thing, and the issues that you pointed out, those are the real issues: the surveillance, the over-policing, the infringing on human rights. If you talk to the billionaires or the tech executives, Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, and all of that, they'll have you believe that they've created such powerful systems that they're so worried that these systems could pose an existential risk to quote unquote humanity. So they might make you believe that they're kind of creating like a digital God, an all-knowing thing. And this thing might be so powerful that it's going to have a Terminator kind of scenario. And that's like a marketing ploy. They want you to believe that their systems are so good that, wow, I'm so worried that it's going to be like the robots taking over thing. And I don't want people to fall for that, because the real problem is that they're exploiting labor, they're stealing data, and those are all of the things that are making us believe that their systems might look super intelligent, but they're not. So do not be distracted by the kind of the hype of what kind of and the promises that these people tell us that their systems, they're like, if you only give us $5 billion more dollars, or 7 trillion is actually the number. And this is a real number that Sam Altman said, if you only give us your water that we're going to use for the data centers, if you only give us your data for free, then we will solve all of your problems, right? And so don't fall for that is what I want to say.
Dr. Gebru, we only have about a minute left. Can you answer a follow-up to that second piece? Is what is your vision for the distributed use of these technological tools going forward? What's your vision for how it can serve our communities rather than surveil them?
We have this series called the Possible Future series, where we try to imagine these kinds of futures and what they look like and how technology fits into it. And one of the things I wrote was like, I thought about my grandma and I thought, okay, what does an internet that would give my grandma joy look like? My grandma did not read or write in any language, right? And so why would she have to interact with the internet by writing? So that means she's just out of the loop. She wouldn't be able to, interact with it. So why can't we have seamless voice to text kind of what we call automatic speech recognition for her to be able to interact with the internet the way she wants? The content would be, something that is appropriate for her, regardless of who she is. And she wouldn't be forced to be online for her basic needs if she doesn't want to. So that is consent. To me, these are the kinds of things I'm thinking about, right? What are the needs of the people I care about? And what are the ways in which technology could serve them, and what are the ways in which it doesn't currently?
A lot of folks in the audience want to know, like, how do they follow you? How do they read your papers? How do they get access to your information? If you could share all those things before we let you go, that would be great.
Yes, of course. So my vision for a tech future is one that is based on the needs of people, right? So I don't believe in a digital God or an everything machine. I just want to look at how I can put tools in the hands of marginalized groups. So I'll give you one example, which I think is very much applicable in the US too. But one of my researchers is South African, and she grew up in a township. And townships are creations of apartheid, where Black people were forced to live in townships and very crowded, and the budget that was allocated for them was a lot lower than everybody else. And so the South African, so if you want to study, have their lives changed post apartheid legally falling in about 30 years ago. If you want to ask that question, you first need to know where the townships were versus where the other kinds of neighborhoods are. But the census doesn't disaggregate that. So we used computer vision tools, which is a subset of artificial intelligence, to first figure out where the townships are. And now we have all of this data, all of this information about, it's looking like actually things aren't that much better. Like name apartheid is, so now they can go and show this to the government and say, look, the way we're allocated resources is inequitable, the way we're doing. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to use technology for.
Yeah. And Doc, how do folks read your work, follow, dare? Give us some of your call outs, please, before you have to get out of here.
Okay. So if you start, I'm like, there's just one of me. So if you just search my name, Timnit Gebru, you'll find me. I used to be very active on Twitter, but once the Nazis took over, I'm kind of not active on there. Blue Sky, we have something called Mastodon. I'm on there. I'm on LinkedIn. I might go on Instagram, but I'm not there right now. I was told to join. But yeah, you can find me. You can find our website. You can follow DARE as well on all of these platforms.
Dr. Timnit Gebru. Folks, give it up for Dr. Timnit, please. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to enlighten us here today. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you, and best of luck in all the great work you're doing.
You're listening to The Week on Word. Represent your favorite station in style. Look for Afrocentric tees, hoodies, tumblers, notebooks, mugs, and more. Just click the shop tab at WURD Show the world that you're all about Black Talk Media.
You gotta look good.
This is the Week on Word podcast. To learn more about our programming, simply visit our website, WURDradio.com. Our last conversation for this episode features Sharif El-Mekki joining Reality Check with Tanya Pendleton.
We have a guest with us now who is someone who is instrumental in making that happen here in Philadelphia. His name is Sharif El-Mekki. He is the founder and CEO of the Center for Black Educational Development. He is going to tell us more about that and the work that they are doing. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I know that you are working to bring more Black teachers into the pipeline. Tell us about your efforts in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. Sorry about the tech issues, but we really established our organization to help diversify, ensure that educators are more prepared and supported as they enter the workforce. And what we realized early on was that many Black youth were not being invited into the profession. And many districts are chasing vacancies in the fall or chasing college graduates while overlooking high school students who are sitting in front of them. Often when we talk about career exploration, even though a city like Philadelphia hires between 800 and 1,000 teachers every single year, there are very few opportunities for students to explore what is teaching, what's the science of teaching, what's the framework of learning how to teach. It was an assumption, maybe not explicitly stated, but, an assumption that, well, you were a student for 13 years, pre-K to 12th grade. So if you want to be a teacher, you'll just come knock on the door. We wanted to formalize and give actual opportunities for career exploration, career connected learning, workforce development, but also framing it from what is a Black framework in the history, how Black educators contributed mightily, I would say, to the educational landscape that's often ignored, misunderstood, or some people are just outright ignorant about.
Yeah, Sharif, I was going to ask you in terms of, I understand that the rate of Black teachers is extremely low, kind of surprisingly low, maybe less than 5% is what I understand nationwide. There seems to be some research that suggests that when Black students have Black teachers, they do better. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Significantly so. And it hovers around 6%, between 6 and 7%. But for like Black men, for example, it's less than 2%, so even that is profound. But what we've seen, and we've known for a really long time, short term, that Black educators, and I would say for all students, but let's just talk very specifically about the impact it has on Black students. We knew in that year that Black teacher with the Black students would have higher attendance, better grades, less expulsion, suspension, or even referrals for discipline, less likely to be referred for special education, better home communication. That's just that year. But they've also done longitudinal studies, seeing like, okay, how has that impact of having that Black teacher impacted that student years later? Particularly for Black boys, for example, they can be up to 39% less likely to drop out of high school, up to 29% more likely to enroll in college. And if they have two Black teachers, and this is for any student, boys or young ladies, 32% more likely to go to college, right? And so when we're talking about college enrollment, college degree attainment, which I would say a prerequisite is high school graduation, in addition to all the other things that we talked about, like not being expelled. We know every time you get suspended, it has an impact on your long-term outcomes. Like all of these things, having more Black teachers is the single most underinvested intervention that we can have for our communities.
So given that there's research that supports how important it is to have Black teachers, and given the fact that there are so few Black males in the profession and there are limited numbers overall, what have you been able to accomplish and what do you want to accomplish at the Center for Black Educator Development?
Yeah, one of the beautiful things is that a lot of our work is really started from our students' rallying cry and demand. So like our campaign, for example, We Need Black Teachers, that came from our students. These were our high school students who were saying, this is what we actually need. We need Black teachers. And so we actually said, we're going to help amplify that so people can follow along and see how people have been contributing, particularly the youth and new teachers, as well as veteran educators. One of the things that we also do is many people are around the country despite what's happening at the policy level, federal policy level and some state policy level, many families say like, yeah, I actually want my students to have a diverse educated workforce. Students are saying, yes, I actually want a diverse, group of teachers as I matriculate through school. And so, but there was also disconnected from the social, political, and economic realities of becoming a teacher. It's expensive to become a teacher. Not only do you need a college degree, you have to get certified, you have to get your master's degree. Black teachers carry more student loan debt than other demographic groups who are coming into the profession. And so we wanted to make sure that students are receiving support as they're matriculating through college if they've chosen to become teachers. So what does it mean to be first gen? What does it mean to be the only Black man in your teacher prep program in school? A lot of universities, as much as they talk about diversity and helping diverse teachers, their teacher colleges are less diverse than the overall student body, right? And so all of these factors play a part. And so we're proud to be able to offer 3 very specific programs for the teacher pathway model that we use. So one is career technical education courses. Just a small example, people are familiar with Science Leadership Academy, Bieber. That's one of our, that's really our flagship partner here in the city. And just their juniors, they have 70 high school students who are taking our courses and are interested in becoming teachers. That's just from one small school. People might not be familiar with Bieber. They're like the mighty engine that could. Small school doing amazing things, including the work they're doing to develop the next pipeline of teachers. We also have freedom schools, and we encourage families, if they have first, second, and third graders in our city, to enroll at one of our Freedom School Literacy Academy sites, where they'll be taught by college students and high school students who are interested in becoming teachers. And they teach first, second. Imagine student teaching for a 10th grader in high school. So they can explore, learn, teach, particularly focus on literacy, but also learning about Black teaching traditions, Black teaching techniques, and using that to teach the next generation, where they see like, oh, I have agency, and I'm also helping this first, second, and third grader during the summer, not only have the best summer of their life, but also increasing their literacy rates. And then we have the fellowship, where students who've taken either the career exploration course in high school, or they participate in our summer program and they want to be a fellow, then they can actually earn up to $40,000, $5,000 as they matriculate through college to, again, address debt that they might have. But then once they return to Philadelphia and they get to their 5th year of teaching, they get a $20,000 retention stipend, because we want to signal this is how important it is to you. Not only do we want to make sure you become a teacher with as least debt as possible, with that $5K, so $20,000 you matriculating through college. But once you get to your 5th year of teaching, we want to give you a $20,000 check. You'll pay your taxes, and after that, it's theirs. Because we want to signal this is so important for our community. It is so important for the next generation. It is so important for our collective future that we have more diverse teachers performing well, being accomplished, and impacting our students and maybe our grad students.
Yeah, thank you for laying that out. Sharif, tell me briefly, we've got about a minute, how the federal anti-DEI policy is impacting your work and what the community might be able to do to support you.
No, thank you so much. As you know, there's a growing pressure on schools and nonprofits to stay away from any programming that acknowledges student identity or educational gaps. And we're committed to, continuing to prepare educators, and really all educators, who are well equipped to teach our students and future students, which means holding firm to research-based practices that includes diversification of the educator workforce. It includes creating inclusive learning environments where all students are supported. And so one of the major things that your listening audience can participate is, one, continuing to pressure the local policymakers, because so much of this also localized, provides a level of buffer for the federal government, but also making sure that our students right in front of us are being protected. So continue to elevate the voice, continue to be ambassadors for our students who say we need Black teachers, and continuing to elevate. But also, I would say this is an important part, inviting our youth into the profession. Inviting them. When we see our brilliant students say, you know what, have you thought about leading a classroom of your own one day? Have you thought about leading a school of your own one day? We need that. At one point, Philadelphia, 40% of the public school teachers were Black. That number is down to 24% approximately today. And most of our students, as you know, are Black and brown. And so we need our best and brightest leading classrooms across this city in order to ensure that our youth are performing at the optimal levels and reaching their aspirations.
And where can we find you and find out more? And if can we donate if there are people who want to do that?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely accept donations, and they go right into whether it's the fellowship or like our Freedom School Literacy Academy. And people can also participate. In tomorrow is Thank a Black Teacher Day as part of Teacher Appreciation Week. It is Black Teacher Appreciation Day tomorrow, Thursday. City Council will be continuing their resolution to identify tomorrow, Thursday, being Black Teacher Appreciation Day. People can find us on all the social media platforms at centerblacked.org. That's at centerblacked.org. And if they have it easy to remember, WeNeedBlackTeachers.com will take us to the website. We have a website, but sometimes people forget it. Like, oh, what was that letter again?
Got it.
If you go to WeNeedBlackTeachers.com, which is our students' campaign slogan, it will take you to our official website. And there's a ton of information on there for families, for high school students, for college students, for policymakers, as well as community at large. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. Sharif El-Mekki, the founder and CEO of the Center for Black Educator Development. Thank you for being here and for the work that you do. We truly appreciate it.
This is the Week on Word.
In the beginning there was Jack. Jack boldly declared, "Let there be house." And house music was born.
June is Black Music Month, and this year, WURD Radio's Message in the Music series presents From Disco to House, a Musical Legacy. Join us on Friday, June 13th from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. at World Cafe Live, 3025 Walnut Street. This event features a panel discussion, live performances, and the flyest disco and house music dance party in Philly. If you love to dance and you want to learn more about the journey from disco to house, then join us on Friday, June 13th from 7 to 11 p.m. at World Cafe Live, 3025 Walnut Street. Get your tickets now at WURDradio.com. This Black Music Month event is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Lottery, Comcast, and PICO.
And this is fresh.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Week on Word. Let's stay connected. You can sign up for our newsletter and listen to us online at WURDradio.com and on the WURD Radio app.